Hi, good evening. Welcome to Barmy Army podcast. This evening I'm joined by Jake. Jake, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks.
Good. And I'm very pleased to say, returning after a slightly lengthy absence, Zoe's back with me. How are you doing, Zoe?
Good, thank you. You?
Yeah, absolutely fine, thank you. Hopefully this evening, keep everything crossed, we're going to have comments. If not, because I know last week Mark was struggling without them. If not, I've got every device possible going. So might not be able to put them up on the screen, but we'll hopefully at least be able to pass things on. Plan for this evening is we are going to look back on a match that feels like it happened ages ago. Good evening, Mark. Good evening, Ian. Good evening, John. This is looking hopeful. Look back on a match that it seems happened forever ago, but isn't even a full week. The City Conti Cup game. I'm probably going to have a rant about the Conti Cup again because I like to do that. And we might talk about internationals because apparently they're going on at the moment. And Jake's going to join me in my new hashtag, aren't you, Jake? This afternoon we're on Twitter. Yeah, more about that later. John Fry wants to know, Jake, are you going to be Mr. Positive?
Yeah, try to find the positives in the victory last week.
Yeah, okay. So let's talk about that. And that's the point. Good evening, Fiona. That you said then the victory. Okay, it was a draw in the 90 minutes. We've then gone on to win on penalties. We had the watch along. Obviously, we did the fan cams after. Jake, your thoughts on the game, on the match as it stood, and just watching it really.
Yeah, well, I said on the fan cams at the time, and I hate to go down the negative route again, but you watch it back, and I have watched myself back on it, and all of us do seem a bit down on it, and it's natural, when you're going out of a competition like that. So we're all a bit disappointed, but you try and look at the game now, you try and isolate it from the competition. We held City to 0-0. They never really looked like scoring. We won on penalties. We won in a derby. That in itself is impressive. So if you try and isolate that from the fact that we've gone out of the Conti Cup, it was a successful night.
Yes, isolated. It was a successful night. John Fry's saying City played for a draw. Mark saying that City didn't want to win but happily played for a draw. Despite losing, City are probably happier after that game. Zoe, your thoughts on watching the game, because at times it was a difficult watch.
It was, yeah. I thought, I think I went into it with a kind of negative viewpoint because I thought it was going to be a tough ask to beat them, especially playing them so close, because we just played them in the league, brilliant comeback from them. And then to go and play them again less than a week later, we've sort of given each other our game plans away. So it's kind of hard to sort of regroup and then, come up with a whole new way of playing that they've not already sort of figured out, if that makes sense. That's how I felt anyway. And obviously having lost to Liverpool, I thought it was always going to be hard for us to qualify. So I kind of went into it not expecting much. So the end result was a real positive for me. I was really pleased with it. But yeah, obviously it would have been nice to get the win and still be in the competition.
Fiona says that beating City in anything is a victory, and I think we'd all agree. I want to just talk a little bit about the structure of the Conti Cup. Jake, you and I have been banging the hashtag respect the Conti Cup for a while now, but they've changed the format partway through the tournament, partway through the competition. And that first loss against Liverpool at the time, as bad a result as it wasn't insurmountable. Then they changed the results and suddenly they changed the qualifying statistic standards. And suddenly it was. Suddenly that result counted and effectively that did us in. Do you think, with that in mind, that's affected Casey's team choice? but then also affected the way we went out and played. Because to me, that I didn't see a lot of urgency. Jake, would you agree? Do you think that had an impact, or do you just think Casey picked the strongest 11 she could at the time, and they did go out for the win, but couldn't deliver it in the 90?
There's two ways of looking at it, and you make a great point that maybe the whole changes and the uncertainty around how to get through the group maybe has an impact on the players. Also, the fact that we're doing so well in the league at the moment maybe took the foot off the gas a bit in this one. But yeah, there were times in the game where it didn't look like we wanted to win, admittedly. But at the same time, I get what you're saying. For example, the last 2 seasons when we played in the Conti Cup, we have had brilliant cup runs. We've done amazingly well. So it does feel a bit wrong to not have that this season. But as you say, just the whole Conti Cup, and I hate to have a go at the FA and people who are deciding the format for it. The whole Conti Cup feels a bit wrong this season. It's not straightforward. We're going to have some weak teams going into the quarterfinals. The groups aren't level numbers. It's a mess.
John says the only people who are happy with City fans and the FA that Jake doesn't want to criticise, but I certainly shall do. Because Fiona makes the point, and I think we'd all agree, it is stupid to change the rules partway through a tournament. Absolutely, how was that allowed? This is the same FA that played last year's FA Cup this year. That's another one, don't start me on. John Neville, good evening. There's also the small matter of an outstanding Everton game. So our group games have been anything but straightforward. Because I go back to our first season, we lost our first Conti Cup home game against Reading, and we still came out top of that group. So the group stages should or have allowed for less than perfection. This year, very different. Zoe, that Everton game, we'll talk a little bit more about the circumstances of it, but do you think that the loss to Liverpool, which was shocking, poor performance, shocking result, coming up against City less than a week after a really hard-fought draw, and not having this Everton game, has that had an impact as well in how we went into that City game, and just with the uncertainty and the blessed FA?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, again, I don't want to call them, but, all the fans were leading the way in trying to be like, respect the Conti Cup. And I feel like the organisers don't respect it. And how can anybody kind of go into it and take it seriously when they're changing things halfway through? And yeah, I think in some ways, I think Casey saw it as an opportunity to kind of try new things and be like, well, are we going to qualify? Do we stand a chance? What are the rules now? And just kind of, changed up a game plan a bit and just went with whatever we could get, really. Because I mean, like I said, I went into that after reading, trying to figure it out myself, what this means, what we needed from that City game, and if the Everton game was even going to be rearranged, which I still don't think that we have an answer to yet. And I kind of thought, well, how does she plan for this? How and then her kind of worries on that would then pass on to the girls. So I do feel like she probably went into it with just let's try some new things. Just go out there like you've got nothing to lose, because we're not even sure what we've got to lose, really. So
do you think Casey would have put a different team out if we were playing under the rules we started the competition in, and whereby that Liverpool game counted for nothing?
Quite possibly. I mean, I'm not sure. I feel like as well, tactically, we did seem to have our foot off the gas a little bit. And so I think if Casey really thought that the win was going to be crucial to us getting through, and that Liverpool game didn't really count, like you say, I feel like we'd have played with a little bit more intensity. But I'm not sure. I mean, it was hard to tell anyway, because like you said, I think City were playing for the draw, and they'd sort of parked the bus at kickoff, really, I felt. But you know, who knows? But I do feel like there would have been, you know, tougher team talks, a little bit more intensity, and yeah, maybe a couple of changes in that starting 11.
Yeah, some comments we'll just pick up on. Fiona. Fiona's a fan of the groups. Certainly, one of the things I love about the group stages is that it gives you a guaranteed it gives you at least 2 normally home matches, a couple of good away trips in there, and the competition gets going. So yeah, love the groups. Just don't like what they've done with them this year. Probably due to COVID, they've had teams. Well, I say teams that are close together geographically. So you've got the 2 Liverpool and the 2 Manchester clubs in a group, but then we've got Villa and Durham in a group. Now my geography ain't great, but that one doesn't work out for me. John Fry, picking up on our issues with the FA, he thinks the FA want United Women to fail. They're jealous of us and our supporters. Maybe the FA don't like United. Maybe there's other reasons for it. I don't know. This is the one. I think Fiona's made such a great point. When managers and clubs say on Twitter that they don't understand what they need to qualify, it is a joke. Mm-hmm. And then John Neville backs that up with, it's been a total disaster all around the season. It's been a disaster for us on the pitch, but it's been a disaster off the pitch as well. Jake, you're a massive fan of the Conti Cup, and I think we will forever talk about that night in Southport, because that was one of the nights where the team almost came of age in a way in our eyes. We saw that actually we had the potential for this to be something special. This wasn't just let's follow a team round. This was Manchester United, and those girls were doing us proud. That night in particular, we had a great atmosphere as a fan group going as well. I feel a little bit let down that we've not had the opportunity to have those kinds of nights. Obviously, we're not allowed at grounds, but that the Conti Cup's been such a shambles this year. Do you almost feel like, let's cancel it this year, let's move on, let's look at next year already?
Yeah, I mean it's easy to say let's cancel it when we're out and everything, but no, I do get you. And as Fiona said about the groups, you know, I love the fact we've got groups, and you know, you're guaranteed 3-4 matches, sometimes 5 in some cases. So you have a good run in the cup, even if you do happen to lose them all and go out. But yeah, the main reason why I love the Conti Cup, I should say, isn't the competition itself. It's the memories and, you know, some of the great nights we've had. We've had scrappy games, we've had amazing wins, we've had great away trips. It's just been a special competition for us in a way. And I should say, yeah, not being there this season has taken a lot out of it for me. And I'm not really valuing it this season. You know, going out of the Conti Cup, yeah, it's disappointing, but you know, not being there, it just takes so much of what makes it special to me, if that makes any sense. Because you can follow the league, you can follow the FA Cup when it comes round. Obviously, just watching it on TV and everything. But the Conti Cup for me is about being there. It is about the occasion.
I absolutely agree with you, and I think that's one of the things that we're missing, and we feel it at certain times more than others. And I certainly think that penalty shootout last Thursday night, as much as we were watching it on TV, we were on the watch along, there was also this sense in me that I would have loved to have been there. More than most moments we've had during the season, I'd have loved to have been. Obviously, would have loved to have been there to see the equaliser against Chelsea, to see Tobin's first goal back against City, to see Tooney's winner against Arsenal, those kinds of moments. But along the way, yeah, just spot the statistician. Ignoring the game against fourth place team can result in weird things. Some teams will qualify with a 1-0 win, but not if they won by more. I'm just going to bow to Fiona's statistical knowledge on that one. But I know I spent a few podcasts having my 2 penn'orth worth about the FA Cup being carried over. And Shane made a very good point that it was only because it was the 50th anniversary and it was a special one. I don't get this changing of the rules. The John's like what you've said there, Jake. Well done. Very quickly, I'm going to ask you, Jake, here. Favourite moment, I think I know the answer to the first bit. Favourite moment from the Conti Cup in our championship season would be? What would you go for?
It's got to be Everton away, hasn't it? Nothing comes close.
And I think I know your answer to this one, but there's a few options. Favourite moment from the Conti Cup last season?
For personal reasons and the match itself, Brighton at home.
Yes. There we go. Zoe, have you had the opportunity to go to any of the Conti Cup games in the last couple of seasons? Obviously, nothing this season.
Last season, I went to some of the Conti Cup games. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'd like to say first of all is in terms of the group stages of it. Again, I like it. I'm not sure how they've done it this year. Or how they do it any year, really. I'm not really big into my sort of politics of football. I just kind of watch it and enjoy it kind of thing. But I feel like the FA is trying to push women's football in a way that it shouldn't be going. Like, I feel like the deciding groups. I mean, last year we played City twice in 1 week. I think that was the FA Cup and then the league or something. And I remember it at the time, and it felt like they'd deliberately paired us, as opposed to having to create this drama and to build this fan base and stuff, which I get. We all want to build the women's game, but not in a kind of forced way like that. I'd much prefer it if they did, draws like they do with the men's game, where you can watch them. It doesn't have to be on a TV channel. They could stream it on the Facebook pages, but the fans would have much more respect for competitions if they did things like that. And I just feel like I'm losing respect for certain aspects of the game because I feel like it's forced as opposed to done fairly, really. But that's just my comments on it.
I have to tell you, if Shane was watching tonight and if Shane was going to drop in the comments, he would be applauding that right now, because he's adamant that these draws for any stage of any competition should be televised. Mm-hmm. Because why do we get City in the FA Cup last year?
Mm-hmm.
It is, to an extent, inevitable we will get them at some point in a Conti group, whether that's this year, in the following year, alternate years maybe. However, to get them every year and in the FA Cup this year and last year. Ian, resident ref, what are you saying to me, ref? The FA have not published competition rules for this year's. Wow. They've not published competition rules for this year's leagues, so Super League or Championship, or the Conti Cup. However, they have for the FA Cup. Thank you for that, Ian. That's a little bit alarming.
Mm-hmm.
I think the direction of the game is we could have a whole podcast on that, actually. But I think you're right. There are things that don't seem to add up if the game is genuinely going to grow, and it's going to grow naturally. They're not going to just force something to happen, because ultimately, for me, the fact that we play City on Saturday and then on the Thursday, I think Casey said it. It's boring, and it's a different challenge for the team. And as fans, I think it's a different challenge because, that league game, we were shocking in the first half, but that second half, that was one of the best feelings we'd have had this season. And we've had some great moments. And then to come off that high, because it did feel like a high. I know we could have snuck it at the end. Jake, you were certainly hoping Lucy would have got the winner for us. To then come off that into a cup game, and having had the rules changed, and still waiting for the outcome of this Everton game, things don't always feel professional. Let's go back to the actual game. In terms of the 90 minutes, we'll look at the 90 minutes first. What, for you, Zoe, were the positives that you could take from the performance or something around the 90 minutes? Were there any positives for you?
Yeah, I think there definitely was. I mean, one thing for me was I saw a whole new side to Leah Galton. I mean, she's been playing in a different position this year. We've seen that in the league. And I do feel like she has settled into that role. I felt like in that league game against City, she made a few errors. And in the Conti Cup game, she just seemed to have rectified them all in the week. And there was a few times when the MUTV commentators said, "Oh, that's a brilliant block," and she really was, just putting her body in the way all the time when City did have chances. So I think for me, that was my biggest positive from the game, because I saw Leah really settle into that new role that she's found, and I feel like she can go on and do great things as a left back.
I was just going to say, Jake, I'll come to you in a moment and ask you same sort of thing about the positives of the game. Zoe, do you think that's where Leah could end up, or is she covering that position whilst we've got to try and fit her into the team somehow, and defensively we're short? Do you think that's long term or just at the moment?
I think, having seen that performance, it could be long term now. I feel like I think Casey said in an interview about what players she wants on the pitch, and how in certain areas it's hard to fit all those great players that we've got on the pitch at the same time. And yeah, of course, we've got, I mean, in a previous podcast, I called them subs, and someone said, no, the game changers. And they are, Jess Sigsworth coming off the bench against Arsenal, and was a real game changer. But I really feel like for her confidence as well, Leah does need to be starting games. And I felt like last season she was one of our best players. She was creating chances all the time. I don't think it's fair to then start putting her on the bench just because we've suddenly got a few extra players in the squad that are really great. And I think it's great that Casey's given her that opportunity to try and shine somewhere else on the pitch where maybe we are lacking. And I feel like she's sort of settling into that role. So I feel like maybe at the start it was a temporary fix, but I feel like it could become more of a permanent fixture.
Okay. John suggests that. That's jumped comment. I'll come back to that one. Leah left back for the rest of the season. That gives us questions over somebody else. But Leah at left back against weaker teams gives us another play going forward, says Fiona. I think for me, Leah at left back, we might miss out on her delivery. That's my concern. John then goes on to say that Leah's got a great engine, never stops running. And I think there was a conversation last week about where does this leave Lotte Rockvist. I think that's been had, that will be had. But certainly when you're converting a left winger to a makeshift position over somebody whose natural position is left back, doesn't say a lot for them. Jake, Mr. Positivity, come on. Give us the good bits about that performance over the 90 minutes last week.
Yeah, well, here's something that I've noticed more when I've been watching it at home as opposed to actually going to games. You focus more on players. You get to see, just seeing it on TV, see players making runs, you see how players perform. Maybe it's just me, but that's what I've noticed anyway. So Honor, I think she improved massively from the game at the weekend. I'm not going to hide from the fact Georgia Stanway absolutely dominated her in the league. She looked well out of her depth, but hold on, by Thursday she's a different player, and in fact I'd say Honor even won that battle with Stanway on the Thursday. It was she was much improved. This is the Honor that we've seen for the start of the season, obviously since she's come back from her injury. So yeah, I think she's massively improved against the same opponent in the 4 days. And we say 5 days, and we say oh yeah, we shouldn't be playing City, within the space of a week, and it sort of loses some excitement for us as fans. But you look at the players, and as I say, Honor is the main example. She's had time to obviously look back at her game and put things right immediately afterwards. So I think that was good to see. Our midfield was strong. I can criticise the attack all I want, but being positive, midfield was strong. We didn't get dominated anywhere in the pitch really. We could, even though City played for a draw, we could have gone a goal down and dropped our heads, but we didn't. We stayed strong. And I think even though the result was a 0-0, it was a strong performance overall. We were solid. We didn't ever, let the defence open like we have in some games this season, and that's the main thing.
I know I said in the fan cams that actually we'd kept a clean sheet, and I think in our need to win that game for qualification purposes, we'd almost ignored the fact that we hadn't conceded because we were so focused on the fact that because it was a draw after 90 minutes, City got the point and we were knocked out. But at times our defence hasn't looked great, and we are still playing a makeshift defence. You know, Leah is not a recognised left back, and yet, you know, Abby Mack's out injured at the moment. Amy Turner's covering, and I don't think I need to sing Amy T's praises here. I think she's doing it forever. She's showing what she's got. Nobody needs to be convinced. I'm also of the school of thought that says even when Abby Mack's fit, I still think I'm keeping Amy T in the team. But that's another conversation. We did keep a clean sheet, and yet it just feels as if there's been no joy from that. Are we wrong to overlook that, Zoe? Or is that just part of the fact that, does that say more about City not going for the win and playing for the draw?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think we do need to give praise to the fact that, I mean, throughout the 90 minutes, there was some times when I was a little bit nervous with Emily Ramsey, and there was a couple of errors there. But at the end of the day, she hasn't had the game time, and for her to keep a clean sheet, and yeah, they did sort of park the bus, as I said, but at the same time, they did have chances, City, and we did let them in just, you know, a little bit. And we managed to defend that, and and Emily Ramsey kept a clean sheet, and I think that needs recognising that, you know, we've got this goalkeeper that doesn't get much game time, and she can hold her own against City, and so can the rest of the team now. And I think it says a lot about our standards as well now, that we're kind of a bit sad that we didn't get the win, and we are overlooking the fact that we kept a clean sheet. I feel like last season we'd have been celebrating that, you know, like massively. But now we've got kind of a higher standard, and yeah, we want to be going for the win, and we want to be getting trophies and stuff. So yeah, I think there's a couple of ways of looking at it.
Our expectations have increased so much that actually a clean sheet against City, despite the fact that we conceded two a few days before, actually a clean sheet against City is just accepted, and it's not the biggest thing. Okay, Jake, does the clean sheet say more about our defensive capabilities or City's lack of urgency?
Well, I should say City had chances. I think back now, and Mewis had a shot that went just wide, and Ellen White should really have buried the chance that came to her, but our defence did enough to put her off. So even when we're not blocking and tackling, we're doing enough. Mill and Amy at the back, they're so physical, and you see that, and strikers just can't get past them. And like when they had the ball, they shrugged off it. And the physicality of the defence is something that has definitely improved for us. And I should say, keeping a clean sheet against Arsenal just a few weeks back, and now against City as well. That these are teams that bang the goals in for fun usually. And I should say, you look at these and you take that's the main positive to take from the game. And going forward, I can see it happening again. It's just about having a run of clean sheets now. But while our defence is as strong as it is, then that's great. And I think Amy playing at centre back is a must. Now, she's a great right back, converted right back, I've got to say, and she fits into that position brilliantly. But I think our defence is massively improved when you've got Amy there. Turner and Turner, as you say, playing at the back, just stopping your attack. Just
Talk about that, Jake. Yeah,
I had to. But no, as I say, they did a job, and City didn't look too threatening, and that isn't City's doing. That's United's strong defence, and that's what we have to say. We have to give ourselves some credit where it's due.
Yeah. Last thing City would have wanted was to lose to us again. Did lose to us last year in the Conti, of course, especially after throwing away a 2-0 lead. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, John's agreeing with you. I think there was a chance as well. I think Stanway had a chance where she got in front of Honor. I think that was this game, not the league game. So, yeah, I'm just thinking about where our expectations are. And City did have the chances, but we didn't create that much. I'm remembering a shot that LJ had early on,
Mhm.
And I think Bardsley tipped it wide. Other than that, there weren't, and Jess at the end, there was a shot. I think Jess had a chance towards the end, but we didn't create that much. And in many ways, I feel that our forward line was the weakest area of our team. Defence held tight. Midfield was okay. Going forwards, Zoe, I'm going to ask you a question as a big fan of Mary Earps. Okay? No? Will Rambo's performance, does it warrant her starting in the league? And also, does that now push Mary?
I think it pushes Mary to an extent. However, I don't feel like she's at that stage yet that she's anywhere close to, pushing Mary out in the league. I think Mary has made some errors this season, and luckily for us, it hasn't led to major disaster. So but I feel like it's very easy to criticize goalkeepers when they do make errors, because a striker can make an error, and it's a chance. People say we created chances. Yeah, we didn't score, but we created chances. But if they'd have done better, we might have scored. You know what? But with a goalkeeper, it's very, very obvious when they make an error, because usually it either leads to a goal or a corner or whatever, and it's very easy to challenge them on that. But I think with that first City game, there was a lot of errors that Mary made. However, there was also a lot of good saves as well. And I remember one in particular that, again, we've criticised how she handles a cross. It was a cross, and she came out, punched it away, got it out of danger. And I thought, yeah, that's great, but that's kind of what we expect from them, I know. But I do feel like Mary still has the edge over Rambo. I feel like Rambo could be challenging. Again, it's a shame that we're out of the Conti Cup now, because that would have given Rambo the game time that she needed to maybe start challenging. But for now, I mean, yeah, I'm a massive Mary Earps fan, so I'm always going to want Mary to start over anybody else. But I feel like she deserves to.
Okay. Fiona says that Rambo's made some silly mistakes, but so's Mary. So maybe neither of them are sort of pressuring the other. John Fry says, similar with the men, Henderson, I suppose that's Rambo in this position, won't push De Gea out of the league games. And like you say, shame that we're out of the Conti, but we do still have this game against Everton. If it gets played, Jake, do we go with our strongest team? Or, bearing in mind it's going to come in the middle of some league fixtures, do we rotate, use the squad, and keep our first 11 fresh?
Well, what I'm going to say now sort of goes against everything that I put out. And I say, you shouldn't, just play a weaker team for the sake of it. You should always put a strong, not strongest, but a very strong team out. A team that you would happily put out in the league, a team that can win the game. But look, we're out of it. The Conti Cups are right off this season. Play the devs for all I care. Give the girls who haven't had the chance, Lotta, Jane, Ivana, throw all them on. Why not? And I'm not saying that to throw the game, but it doesn't mean anything. And I hate to say that, because I'm not one of those people usually. But they're there. They work hard in training. Give them a chance. Yeah, exactly, Fiona.
Hey, you never know. Maybe they'll change the rules again. Could do. John and Fiona are saying, let's look at rotation. Let's get let's get other players in. And I guess that's where I was picking up on what Zoe's saying there. I'd be expecting Rambo to play that game no matter what. So Rambo will still get another 90 minutes and penalties, maybe. It's then about, for me, giving the players that haven't had minutes and need the minutes. And I'm thinking about somebody like Ivana Fuso, who I think we're all desperate to see what she's all about, because we have no idea. We've heard, we've seen bits, but we've never actually seen her in a red shirt. So if anybody else thinks that we should play our strongest 11 against Everton, please let me know, because right now I think we're all saying squad, because we've got sorry, I've called Ivana the wrong name. Fiona corrects me. It's Hergy. We are in the middle of this international break, and then we've got 3 league games. We're going to come on to those shortly, but can't forget there was a penalty shootout. And I think it's safe to say I wouldn't have picked some of our penalty takers. Well, 2 of them most definitely. Maybe a third. Bearing in mind Tooney is our regular penalty taker if Katie's not on the pitch. Scored against Brighton. Took the penalty against Brighton. She wasn't such a surprise. Millie was. Jackie was to a point. Hayley Ladd was. We'll never know who was on the 5th one. Maybe they'll tell us, actually. Were you surprised, Jake, at who stepped up to take our penalties?
I was actually, yeah. I should say, you'd never expect someone like Millie Turn to step up for a penalty, but you don't know what gets said in the team huddle at full time. You know, it could be a case of maybe they have a list beforehand, or maybe a player just steps up and says, I'm feeling confident, because we can go into like the whole the psychology behind the penalty shootout and how it can mess with your mind and everything, because the pressure is up there as a player. It must be. So, you know, some players can hold the nerves better than others. So who knows? It might just be a case of, you know, Hayley or Millie just putting their hands up and saying, yeah, I'll take one.
I know I think it was Amy T spoke after the game, and she said that they discussed the day before there was a chance it could go to penalties. And I think they discussed then who would take. Fiona, going back to the comment about first 11 or squad, she's saying possibly squad for the Everton game. If we play it, that's still in question. John Fry says defenders shouldn't take penalties. Come on, John. You and I remember Stevie Bruce being the regular penalty taker for long enough. But also agrees with what some of us have said, that Kristen Press was probably our 5th penalty taker. And certainly from her lack of reaction at the celebration, she's just stood there, hands on hips, calm. Everybody else is celebrating. I did wonder whether that was her sense of maybe she just thought, maybe she didn't understand that. I don't know. Zoe, surprised at some of the penalty takers?
Yeah, I was, and I was surprised at sort of thinking about it beforehand. You know, we're probably going to go to penalties, and some of the decisions like Katie Zellum going off, I'm thinking, but she takes our penalties usually. Like, why not keep her on if you think it's going to go to penalties? That to me was a strange decision. So yeah, so when each penalty taker stepped up, I was like, oh, okay. Now I did watch the whole thing from behind a cushion, because even though I knew it didn't really count for much, you know, we were out, I still really wanted us to beat City, so I was still really nervous. So I kind of, I sort of watched it with one eye open and one eye closed, really.
Biggest surprise for you? Millie took one. Well, Millie took one, or Jackie took one. What would you say, Zoe?
Millie. I was really surprised when Millie stepped up, and I think I actually said to my gran, she's not going to score this. But she proved me wrong. So, I mean, maybe that was Casey's plan, because she knew that it wasn't going to matter now. I wonder whether she was like, let's try people who don't usually do this, so that if in the future it does matter, we know that we've got a side that can, you know, perform under pressure and take those penalties.
Because obviously, had we got to penalties, that would have meant we were out, because that would have meant City would have got the point. Before it disappears off my screen, oh no, that's not the one I wanted. It's this one. Jackie had the ball in the net, wearing a United shirt. Okay, it's a penalty. It's penalty, and it probably doesn't count. But, you know what? If that was the third goal, if that was the goal that was needed to win a £20 bet, Jake, I'd be calling that one as a goal. So we'll take that. Jake, for you, Millie or Jackie, a bigger surprise?
Millie, because I think Jackie. We talk about how calm Jackie is on the pitch, like when she's being surrounded by attackers, defenders, wherever she is on the pitch. She's a cool head, and in the penalty shootout, that's what you need. So maybe she's one of those people who's eager to step up. And I've not seen much of her before she came to United, so maybe she's took penalties before. And obviously, with her experience, you expect her to be good in these sort of situations. So even though she's not a goal scorer by any stretch of the imagination, yeah, I do sort of trust Jackie from the spot. But Mill was, as I say, a surprise. And she scored, so all good for her. Definitely a confidence booster.
Definitely. Ian pipes up here with, this is pretty much what we've been saying here, Jake. Shame a penalty and a penalty shootout doesn't count in the stats, because who we'd have been wheeling out for the 5th. We'd have been having a late sub for the 5th if that would have been needed. Still waiting for her first official goal. And what we're suggesting there, Ian. So 4 penalties taken. We don't know who was on the 5th. I'm guessing it was Kristen. Who knows? It could have been Amy T for all we know. It could have been Rambo. City took their 5, missed 2. Now, it would be remiss of me not to acknowledge that the 2 players who missed, one was Laura Coombs, who scored a pretty decent goal against us in the league. And the other was a bench warmer whose name escapes me, so we'll just move on from that one. Obviously, people are going to make business about the fact that Alex Greenwood missed one against us. She's a City player now. The way I'm one of those, she's gone, she's moved on, she plays for City. Whoever missed that last one, we were going to enjoy it. Zoe, did you enjoy it a little bit more because it was her?
Yes. I remember when I think it was Tevez left United and went to City, and I have never hated a player so much. so I've always been brought up that if you play for United, you don't then go and jump ship and go and play for City. So for me, it's really nice when Greenwood sits on the bench all game, or when she misses a penalty. It's wonderful. So I'm going to celebrate that as much as the United goal, I think.
Yeah, and also if she does play, gets played out of her natural position, because their left back is their first choice. Strange decision to bring back. Jake, did you enjoy it?
Massively.
You're Mr. Woso a bit, and you've got your favourites within women's football. But did the United fan in you just take over at that point?
Look, I find it very, very, very hard to support a City player, even when they are playing for England or their home nations. So, look, Alex, my thought is just with the general thought of United fans. She's gone to City. Doesn't matter to us now. But if you come back and mess up at our ground, then happy days. We're having a laugh.
And we did. Fiona doubts that Amy T was next up necessarily. She looked like she was relieved. There's a great photo. Have you guys seen it, where the team are lined up at the halfway line as that City's last penalty doesn't go in? It's a great photo. If anybody's not seen it, look out for it. Going back to the whole Alex situation, anyone better to miss? I suppose the story was there. Anybody else could have missed it, and it wouldn't have meant as much to us. But for Alex to miss it, yeah, kind of gave the night something. And I can imagine, had we been there, we'd have given her hell for that. We'd have been given a stick all match, but we'd have given her for that moment. And I think anyway, that would have made up for us going out of the competition. The fact that we could have baited her slightly. So a 0-0 draw in 90 minutes. We win 4-3 on penalties. Didn't have to take the 5th one. We are out of the Conti Cup group stages. We still have this game against Everton to play, but we also now have a run of 3 after this international break. Jake, I'll come to you about that. Mark says exactly what we all think. Wish we could have been in for it. Might talk about that for a moment. Got this run of 3 games in this international break at the moment. The 3 games we've got coming up take us to the end of the calendar year. And I think, I'm waiting for one of the statisticians. I think it's just Fiona that's on this one. I think once we get to Christmas, we've played everybody at least once. I I see now, Fiona. Now you're just being you're almost being bitter there. You want all City players to miss, but double as much for yeah. But we all agree. We all agree. These are the times when you realise you're a United fan. You're not just a football fan. When it just means that bit more to you. I think the Tevez analogy is pretty spot on there, actually, Zoe. So we'll have played, I think, maybe barring one team, I can't quite think who, everybody by the end of the calendar year. These next 3 games are going to be massive. But we're getting, hopefully, to a point where the squad is coming together. And that's where I'm coming back to this whole Everton situation of, do we need to rest players for that Everton game? Because nothing less than 9 points will do for the next 3. We've got Villa, Reading, Bristol. Yes. Come on, Ian, bail me out on this one. Everybody by year end. So we will have played everybody at least once, and we will have had an idea of who we've faced up well against, who we might have difficulty with in the second half. Oh, hang on, Ian. Come on, Ian. We're on a slight delay here. Yes, he says not played Everton. Fiona jumped straight in. We've not played Everton. Told you I'd get it wrong. So, Jake, 9 points?
Hopefully. I mean, I always say you should never take anything for granted, and sometimes football can be a funny game when the lowest sides can turn up on the day, but this season, as I said, feels special. We're unbeaten. We've played some of our hardest fixtures so far. I'm hopeful. I really am. And you look at the teams that we have to play. You know, Villa, Reading, Bristol. They've all had poor starts by their own standards. Okay, Villa have just come up and are sort of getting used to the league, but Bristol have been getting battered nearly every game. Reading, not really up where they usually are at this time of season either. They're struggling, you know, mid-table. So yeah, you look at it and you think we've had a great season so far. Our morale should be right up at the top compared to what they have. So it should be 9 points, but I'm trying not to get carried away. We all know what happened last season against Bristol, and that will always be in the back of my mind when I think when I'm always expecting to win.
Mark's not worried about the Bristol game. It's the Reading game he's unsure about. I'm assuming it's Reading, not Reading, that he's not quite reading. Maybe I'm reading that wrong. I'll get that soon. Yeah, John, we've got Reading coming up in this next run of 3. Yeah, Bristol getting battered last year till we played them. I think we were saying that. Zoe, 3 big games in terms of momentum, but also what we can what our expectations are. We've got to win all 3, wouldn't you have thought?
Yeah, I mean, if we get anything less than that, I'll be disappointed. I'm not going to lie. That's just because of how we started the season, and there's no point standing up to these big teams like Chelsea, Arsenal, City if you're going to drop points against, you know, the teams that, you know, aren't really challenging for the title. So I think it's really important that we win. But I would like to be unbeaten, if not, you know, a clear 9 points. You know, if 6 points and a draw, I don't know. It all depends really on, like you said, the international break. It's a worry having, you know, I used to love international breaks. At the same time, now I'm like, I'm scared of our players getting injured, so please don't play anybody that I care about, kind of thing. But yeah, so, and then also the loss of momentum and not having that team, because that's the thing, we've really gelled as a team, and that's, yeah, we've got these, you know, we've talked about the World Cup players, all this quality we've got in our side, but quality alone isn't good enough to win games. It's that team spirit, and for them to all go off to the different countries and play each other as well, play against each other. It's I am worried that when we come back together, we're not going to have that same momentum, and that's, to me, that's what's key in winning these games, is that team spirit to get the job done, kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. There was a really interesting quote. I think it was Katie that made the quote, that made the comment after the Arsenal game, and she said that in the dressing room afterwards, everybody was buzzing and everybody was, as she felt something had changed. I think that was her actual comment. She felt something had changed, and apparently it was Tobin that said, "This means nothing if we don't go and get something against City."
Mhm.
And I think in terms of mentality, it was such a great thing to read, that they weren't going to get carried away. And of course, that first half against City was poor, but they pulled it back. And Casey herself said, last year we wouldn't have done that. So hopefully, if the performances aren't on point, the mental strength will be, and they'll get them through those games. I know some people are saying we need to score loads of goals. We need to get our goal difference up there. We need to really elevate that. First and foremost, we got to win. Question for you, Jake. What would you prefer? 9 points, or for all the home nations to win during the international break? Tell me you're not debating this. Jake?
9 points.
Jake out of this. Correct answer. Well done. Never doubted for a moment there, Jake. Okay, right. Jake, internationals. You're one of the very few people that love them, aren't you?
Very, very few. Yeah.
Fiona's now thinking.
Wow.
And you know what, Fiona? I'd celebrate him leaving. That's a private one for you, Jake. John Fry's saying, you better say 9 points.
I did eventually.
And Tobin will keep United on task. She said the same after the England match. Yeah. Oh, here's a thought. We're not going to kick you out of the call. You're going in the bin.
Oh, wow.
I tell you know what the pictures on the Sunday Social are going to be like. So, Jake, you do love your internationals, particularly the home nations.
Yeah.
Our girls that are playing, not just this week, which are there any games you're looking out for?
There's lots, but I'm gonna I'll try and relate it to United. Obviously, the main one for us as United fans will be Netherlands against the USA, and the fact that you got Jackie on one side and you got Tobin and Kristen on the other. That will, if there's a way to watch that here in the UK, that'll be great. I'll keep an eye on it, and it'll be great to see. You know, all three of them score, in fact. But you never know. And then of course you've got Hayley, who's got a massive game for Wales against Belarus, which is a must-win for them. You know, Hayley does play.
Second team. Aren't Belarus your second nation now?
No, not internationally.
Sorry.
But no, obviously Hayley plays centre back for Wales. So that's something a bit different for her. And of course you've got the Scottish girls. You've got Kirsty Smith, who might play, and then Jane and Kirsty up for Scotland. And they've got two massive games coming: Finland and Portugal, which could, you know, sort of define their qualifying campaign. So good chance to watch. Kirsty and Jane more so. I'm not sure if Kirsty Smith will play, but Kirsty Hansen.
Yeah. Sorry, Jake.
Yeah, no, as I say, Kirsty Hansen looked really lively in Scotland's last game, and of course we want to see Jane score maybe and get a bit more confidence, if you like. Yeah, two hat tricks will be good actually, one in each game. But that's your basically international summary for any of our girls playing. Then you've got all the England players, but obviously no game for them. So just.
But they're playing. They've got the inter-squad friendlies again, haven't they? I believe that £20, which is the exact figure here that Mark's suggesting, that buys you an awful lot of apple sauce, if that's your thing. I think the Netherlands-USA game is the one that's clearly taken the headlines, and it's one that we'd all like to see. As of a few days ago, we're not aware of where we can see it, but I think there's a few of us that will be seeking that out. Is it 5:30 on Friday afternoon? I think there's a few of us. John Fry's made a point. I don't know if anyone's seen the pictures of LJ, who's in the England squad. She's looked good in the kickabout. So Ian, behave. The kick of women on next as well. Yeah, you see, this is the problem. You're in the States. You've got ESPN2. We haven't. You're gonna have to tell us. You're gonna have to go on Twitter and tell us what's happening. Obviously, we hope as well everybody comes back fit, healthy, no injuries. Kirsty Smith's the interesting choice because we need her fit, I think, just to give Leah the freedom to go forwards if we can accommodate her. But hopefully Kirsty Smith does get some chance, does get some minutes. I think we're in the middle of a conversation here that hashtag ref in the bin.
Yeah, the very big bin that we're all going in.
I think it's a dump site now, really, isn't it? That's been taken over. So no action this weekend in terms of the league. We've got one of these momentum breakers. Is that also an issue with all of these international breaks? Because, Jake, you and I this afternoon on Twitter, we've started a new campaign. We've moved away from hashtag respect the Conti Cup to hashtag end all, I can't remember the exact wording of it, but no more international breaks. Because you agree with me completely there, don't you, Jake? Yes. Zoe, do you believe we should get rid of the international breaks? Because it can kill momentum. And do you think actually Casey would have preferred to just carry on playing?
Yeah, I definitely think Casey would have preferred to carry on playing. And like you said, it kills momentum. I think some teams that have been struggling will welcome things like that. I mean, what I said before about the worry is, I don't want any of our players to play really because I don't want them to get injured. At the same time, players like LJ, and I did see that video earlier that United posted, and I was blown away. But every time I see her play, really, I am blown away by the skill that she has. And Fiona posted an article that her father had written on, I think, The Guardian or something, about both Reece James and Lauren James. And it was really interesting kind of learning about how she grew up in football and, playing with her brothers and on boys' teams and stuff. And I just think her footwork is the best that I've seen from a women's player, just to be able to stand up to defenders and say, come on, and then be able to skip past them. I can't say that I've seen it from other teams. I just think she's a world-class player. And she's been out injured for a very long time now. And I think, I know she played the other day. I didn't think she was up to her best. But to see her in this England camp now, I feel like, I know it was only a few seconds of a video, but I feel like it's going to do her the world of good. And, I welcome it for her. And I hope, she makes the most of playing in those friendlies, because I think she'll come back a better player for us as well, if that's even possible.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point, actually. You're still not going to convince me that international breaks are good. Fiona does seem to agree, though, that it can give players a rest and a chance to come back from injury. And I think that we've struggled to get a full squad out there. So hopefully this current break that we've got on, I think Zoe's leaning more to your side, Jake, and she's a bit pro internationals. Ian, I'm not going to. Ian's saying that he might know of a way that some of us in the UK can watch the Netherlands-US game. I'm not going to pop that up just because of something on it, but fingers crossed, and then at least I can discuss that next week. Jake, do you prefer internationals to club football?
Right, so here's something. You might actually.
Well, that's 1 hour, Jake. Come on now.
You might. It's like, before I started supporting United Women, I always valued international football more and just sort of swayed that way because I've said it before to you on the socials, and there's nothing that I respect more than a player putting their heart on the line and playing their heart out and just running the socks off and doing all they can to win for their country. I think that's admirable in every way. You can see the passion, it's brilliant. But then, obviously, I started supporting United Women. I go to all the games. I go to all the home games and a few aways as well. And, seeing these girls play for United, it's sort of, it's a new sense of pride I've not sort of experienced before as a fan. There's a massive connection between us and them. And I prefer club football now because of them.
I appreciate your knowledge on international football. And I think this is the point we'd all make. As long as they don't get hurt, and as long as they aren't coming back to their club team in need of a break, because that would really unsettle me. Ian, you're a legend. It's not often I say that. But here we go. Fiona's giving you the full. There you go. You're a convert. Yeah, it's fine. We're accepting you. Think you'll find as well that for a comment like that, it's as good as a Jane Ross goal. So, there's a hat trick. Mark nails it for you. Come on, you are Mr. Great Britain. You're all for equal ops with all the home nations. We're just over an hour actually, so I'm going to tie it together there. But I've really enjoyed this chat tonight. Thanks, and thanks for everybody who's watched, who's sent comments in. We've got the international break carrying on, so there's no club games for us to focus on over the next week. But Jake's obviously going to have the time of his life watching all the internationals. So, wait, Belarusian League finishes this week as well, doesn't it? So you're going to need something to entertain you.
I know, yeah. Last game on Saturday, so yeah, I'm stuck. I need something new.
Up the FC Minsk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, got the right one. Yeah. Jake, thank you very much for joining me this evening. Zoe, thank you very much. Won't leave it as long to have you back on next time. Definitely get you on sooner. Mark, couldn't talk about the return of crowds in small numbers. No, absolutely right. It looks like that's going to be possible, just not in Manchester. So we'll probably know more details about that next week, where hopefully I'm going to be joined by Fiona. I think, Fiona, you're on with me, and Chloe's joining us for the first time. So that'll be a nice chat to have. We'll know some more details, hopefully. And if there's any chance we can get to a game, that will be something we'll all jump at. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining me this evening. Zoe, Jake, thank you very much. Take care, everybody. Look after yourselves, and we'll see you all again soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.